Welcome to the Joy of Connecting, where modern professionals share stories of meaningful connection and how it can increase business success, unlock career growth, and create personal happiness. If you like what you hear today, get even more by following the Joy of Connecting on LinkedIn and subscribing to our newsletter that features tips from experts on how to network and connect with more meaning. Well, listeners, we're recording this one today as we roll into the holiday season, and I feel like I'm getting a gift because I am sitting on a call today with Hansen Hunt. He is head of community at Covve, and he runs the Connection Crew by Covve. It is an amazing thing that we're going to dive into today. But Hansen and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and he is one of the most super connector people I know. But what distinguishes him is the heart that he brings to those connections. And I'm really hoping we're going to get to hear a little bit more about that from you, Hansen. Would you say hello? Tell us a bit about, what you do as a job, but more importantly, who are you passionate about helping?
Well, thanks, Melissa. I am super stoked to be here. It's crazy how the universe has kind of connected us originally and then brought us back together, but in a kind of connection world rather than a marketing world. I've really pivoted to all things. My work is around connection now. I like to call myself a connection designer. That kind of feels right now with what I'm excited about doing on a daily basis. And the main thing I invest my energy into is, like you mentioned, that Connection Crew by Covve. It's a team. It's where connection professionals collaborate together. We host masterclasses together. And those people are who I really like to be helping right now. They are people who are doing really inspiring connection work in the world, but maybe doing it alone or with small teams, or don't feel like they have that tight-knit team to support them on that journey. So I'm trying to build that team for them so that way we can really amplify their impact in the world.
Yeah, I mean, talk about perfect people to have on the Joy of Connecting show is the man who is working with connection professionals to connect better, to create connection for them.
Yeah, I'm connecting the connectors is kind of the joke. So,
Well, the good news of that is they don't mind because
yeah.
it's what we live for, right? Tell me a little bit, before I ask you some of our traditional questions, as you mentioned, we first got to know each other kind of in the marketing world. What was the thread that led you into this space of focusing from a work standpoint, obviously your passion as well, on connection? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that pivot for you.
I mean, it was a few different connections, of course, but there's a lot of my life journey that was happening simultaneously, including my journey with sobriety, my journey with a men's group that I was doing a lot of kind of inner emotional work with, and also becoming a facilitator for men's work. So there's this kind of underlying going inward and shifting my life to being more around health and thriving and being in alignment with my values. So that was kind of like
Awesome.
the undercurrent. But then there's a few different things that happened that led to literally the work I'm doing today, which was one, I was like, I am lonely. I need a tool for this. So I created a business plan, of course, entrepreneurial mind. I'm like, I'm going to just create my own business, create my own tool for what I need. And in the process, I realized there was some people already doing it. I saw someone talk about it in a Facebook group and that I was in that community and an active paying member in that community. So I reached out to that person and I said, hey, look, I'm thinking about this. And it sounds like you know about this, this app idea that I have. Maybe we can connect. And that ended up being the co-founder and CEO of Covve, who 2 years after that, we started working together. So this was a while ago. And I realized I had a problem. They had a solution. I was like super excited. We got along really well. And we kept building that relationship, but I kept going back into head of marketing, early stage tech company like jobs. And so there wasn't quite the career alignment just yet, but like we had planted the seed. And then when I got let go of my last marketing job, I was at the same time really interested in the workplace culture space. Like I was like, how can I be a better marketer and build better cultures on my marketing teams and make a better place to work for the people that were on my team. So I was studying that, and in the process got connected to a community here in San Diego called Culture First. Well, they're a global community, but they have a chapter in San Diego. And I just took a risk of, saying yes to an invite and showing up. The only marketer in a culture room. And that led to a lot of good connections, but also that's where I met Sarah, who was the teacher that day, who is now my girlfriend, who I live with, her and her daughter. And so that was a very good risk to take, saying yes to that meeting. But it really showed me like, these are the people that I feel like I belong with. Like this is the space that I feel good, feel alive. So I want more of that, and I want maybe to help these people. So then fast forward a few more months, and I was like, well, what can I do to really amplify their impact in the world? These kind of workplace culture people or connection professionals, as we call them. And I called up Giannis, who I had met a couple of years before, and I said, hey, look, I don't want to do marketing for you, but can I build a community for you? And we worked together. And he said, yeah. And he took a chance on me. And 18 months later, or almost 2 years later now, we have, I don't know, a lot of success, a lot of momentum and excitement around Connection Crew and what we're doing.
Personally, I've had the joy of getting to take part in some of the master classes you've done. I think what's so striking for me is, it comes from a professional space. You've got culture professionals, but there's such a layer of personal support, mental health, all of the pieces of the puzzle that are not just professional. Again, I feel like I have so many questions to ask that I normally do, but can you tell us just a little bit about that? Kind of how you see that more personal side of connection layering into the professional, because it's been very interesting to see these incredibly thoughtfully designed classes and programs that you're pulling together.
Yeah, two main ideas that I kind of came into this like plan with. One, I didn't want to be another community. There's plenty of communities out there, and I wanted to differentiate by bringing in this kind of high performance team mindset and culture, because a lot of these people were doing this work alone. And so that was the problem I want to help solve for them, is give them this team. So think about it like actually your coworkers, and that's how close you are in terms of collaborating, supporting each other, holding each other accountable, rooting for each other. I learned a lot building a running team, a high performance, like competitive racing team here in San Diego. And I wanted to take the kind of the wins from that, the lessons from that, and apply it to this professional team.
Mhm.
And so that feeling of like supporting each other is there that you would get with a team. And then the other piece is intimacy. I wanted it to be where we can go deep together and have way more than just surface connections and networking. I didn't want people just to have 70 more LinkedIn connections. I wanted them to actually have 5 close friends, like people they could pick up the phone and call for help. So it's like, how do I start building and creating the spaces and doing the things to make that possible? And the masterclass is one of those big rocks, but we have a long ways to go before I've kind of achieved that vision, but we're on the right track, right? We're seeing people collaborate. We're seeing people help each other out.
When we chatted about you coming on the show, I asked you if there would be kind of a specific story that you'd like to share about connection. Now, I love that we got to hear the first really special connection of you connecting with Sarah, who you're now together with. I think that's beautiful. And your connection with Giannis. Is there a specific story of connection that you could share with us about someone or yourself who has really taken one connection and it has opened a door professionally? I mean, you did tell us your own story, but is there another you'd like to share?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting a bonus story here because I already shared kind of my two big ones are with Giannis and Sarah, right?
There, yep.
Huge, huge moments for me in my life. It's so cool to see how connections can really fruition over time, and you had no idea. I'll talk about one that kind of goes way back in my marketing days. I was leading the San Diego HubSpot user group, and one of HubSpot's executives was sort of got in touch with me saying, "Hey, do you want to grow this thing?" And his name is Dan Tyre, and he became a mentor of mine, both in that process, but also in life. And he was also a sober man who I was watching professionally and connecting with professionally, but seeing his energy. And I was like, that was one of the sparks for me to pursue living a thriving sober lifestyle. Because like I want to feel like he looks. Like I want that energy for myself. And I want to be able to give that gift of that energy. So Dan is still a mentor in my life, still a personal friend. If I go to Phoenix, I visit Dan, stay with him. Like it's really been a relationship that's grown more than just a HubSpot user group. And so I love seeing that. And whenever I have, if I need help on a business or advice or whatever, or sobriety, like I can just call him.
You've made me reflect. I have to think that that actually might be why I love this show is the people that I've sat down with on the call, including you, are the people that I look to and say, I want to be like that, which is really interesting. It's not just what they're doing or what they've built, but who they are. I can confidently say that the guests that I've sat down and spoken with on the show are the ones who I look to and say, wow, there's a spark or there's many sparks in them that I want to mirror, that I want to be. That's wonderful. As you go through, as you work with these amazing people who are connectors, I'm sure you're learning from them.
Mm.
You've learned a lot. What's one piece of advice that you might give to someone, say, earlier in their journey? Someone who is wanting to grow in building connections. What's one piece of advice?
The funny thing that most people get wrong about me is that they believe I'm really good at connecting with
Yeah.
individuals and building relationships. My actual superpower is bringing people together, connecting other people with each other. I'm great at. But
Mhm.
the intimacy of a one-to-one relationship and going deep with someone and keeping that going for a long period of time, that was not my strength. And that's why I kind of set out to intentionally learn from the experts. So I've been learning. Every time we have a masterclass, I have 3 panelists on that I'm absorbing all of their wisdom, and it's just like my cheat code to getting better at that, and now I am in a place where I can confidently say, like, I'm good at it. I'm not great, but one of the key things that I keep, like, trying to build the habit and wishing I had just built it a little bit sooner in my life was taking notes. Don't hear something really important about someone and let it just go in one ear and out the other. Like, really listen, try to, understand what was going on in that conversation, and then go quickly take a note, add it somewhere that you can find later and follow up or act on that. And I've been doing that better, and I've had some of the most rewarding relationships as a result, but it's still something I miss sometimes. And I'm like, dang it, I wish I would have had that note and remembered that one important thing they really shared with me about that vulnerable piece they gave to me, and I forget it. And so take notes now. Build that habit of note taking on your relationships. It's not weird. It's totally helpful. You're going to meet a lot of people in your life, and it's going to be really nice when you can call back on something you wrote down that was important about that person that they shared with you.
That is hitting a note with me as well. I find that I am a very good listener, but my recall is pretty crappy, to be honest. And so be honest with yourself. Take good notes, find a system. Love it. I've got my good old pen and paper right here next to me. So I've got a little bit of both in my life. When you're sitting and talking with someone and you're peeling back the layers and you're finding these moments that lead to potential partnerships or interest or gifts or something, what are the questions or what's one question in particular that you really love to ask because it leads to something more meaningful?
I think it depends where I'm at with that relationship. Like if it's just a brand new, like I've never met this person before, I'm not going to go deep just off the bat. I'll start with something fun, like what is your superpower, or what is something that you're excited about? Those two questions are kind of fun that are go tos of mine. If we have a relationship, I can go a little deeper with something like, hey, what is something that you appreciate about yourself? And I love that one for also gatherings and just groups like circles when people are sharing. It's a fun way for people to really see themselves with it's like a self-compassionate lens and love themselves and see that light up and have other people witness it.
It's also neat because when you hear what someone else appreciates about themselves, you may then say, "Wow, I could use that in my life too," or
Mm.
that's something that I'd love to connect with you about because I know I need more of that in some way. Wonderful. Now, we've talked a little bit about Cove, but specifically the Connection Crew by Cove. You can mention that one if you'd like, but I'd love to hear from you when you think about communities where these connections are built, because a lot of times we align with different groups. Is there a community that you want to give a shout out to that does connection really well or in some interesting way that you've observed?
Yeah, I think a big challenge right now, one of the bigger culprits of this loneliness epidemic that we're experiencing globally is that a lot of us have moved away from the standard church community as where you go connect and get support. And so we've left the church, but then not found the replacement. And one of those, I forget what I was just reading. I feel like it was a Harvard paper or New York Times article or something like that. But the church, when you went to the church, even though you may not have known everyone in your congregation, you felt supported by them. Like if you needed help, you could actually rely on that person, even though you didn't know them, because of how well they've structured and built that container and the culture there. And so I have found what my church is that in terms of a community and support group, and that's called the Mankind Project. It's the global men's organization I'm a part of. And I help co-facilitate a local circle here where I do know every man. I know, we're 15, 20 of us that are very close and support each other. But I also know I can go to Germany and call up one of the guys that's in that local group and stay at his house. Like I know I have support across the globe from men in this organization, even though I've never met them, because that's how strong of a connection to the container and the community that we've built. And they put a lot of work into that. And so I learn a lot from that. And that's the kind of idea I'm trying to bring to Connection Crew and build that really strong support system.
That's really an interesting comparison to that structure of the church. I think actually a couple of folks I've had here when I talk about communities, church has come up for them still as that's their tie-in. Well, before I send you back to your busy day, as I know you are busy, I'd love for you to give a shout out to one other person that I know you know so many of these folks, but one other person who in your mind you see as just a real pro in the space. I'm sure they would say they have a ways to learn as well, but who is a connection expert that you look up to or that you've learned from?
There are a lot. I mean, all of
I'm
my
sure.
community members are people I look up to in that way. One is Kevin Monroe. He is the world's gratitude coach, and he does such a good job about consistently meeting someone, sending someone a voice memo that says, "Hey, I'm super grateful for you," and then follows up if there's some sort of connection there and schedules a meeting, follows up from the meeting with a little card in the mail. Like, he's got his system really well down, and it's led to a lot of beautiful relationships and collaborations as a result. And so seeing that, I learned from him a lot. And one of his superpowers is reflecting back to someone when something like positive happens in his life or collaboration. So he's met other people as a result of Connection Crew. I would never know that if he didn't come back to me and say, "Hey, look, this is a result of that connection and that connection. And now we're collaborating. And I just wanted to say thank you and let you know about the magic that came from this." And so he's giving me that gift of reflecting back, and he's very good at that. So Kevin, definitely one. Number two is I would go with Taylor Harrington. She's the head of community at Groove. And I'm a big Groove fan. I was just grooving virtual co-working right before this. So how I help my ADHD brain get stuff done. But Taylor's got a lot of superpowers. I will go with one though. Like, she is really great about connecting people in her network with each other. She's made many introductions for me, and she does it sometimes in a more thorough way via email, but a lot of times it's simple. It's like, "Hey, this LinkedIn post made me think of you." So she comments on the post and kind of tags you in like, "Hey, you would love this person," which is actually what you, I think, did for MK and how I met MK. And so also your superpower, and you're one of those people.
I like your point, though. It can be very lightweight. I think sometimes connection is, oh, I got to remember who's in that space and who they should be. I think the people that do this naturally don't balk at just doing it in a lightweight way. Like, oh, you should know Hansen. Like, I don't need to do here's his background and here's why you should know. And like an AI bot who's doing all of the depth of introduction. I just want to,
Yeah.
I think you guys would get along.
There's a
Good chat.
prerequisite of like, I need to trust you
True.
and have our relationship be good. So that way, when you just tag me in, I just know, oh, well, Melissa only tags me in if this person's good. Like, I
Yeah.
should reach out to this person.
Good point. There's got to be a base for it. If anybody is listening today that would like to learn more about you, where could they do that?
I'm most active on LinkedIn. And then if you go to cove.com/connection crew, that's a good spot where a lot of our resources are in terms of like previous masterclasses and our healthy habits of connection series and things like that. But yeah, those are kind of the two main spots where you can find my content or my stuff.
Well, I will have all that in the show notes, of course, some links to click on. And I think people will be listening to this episode in early 2025. So whoever's listening, Hansen and I want to know, what did you take away? Did this lead to some other change in your approach, especially as we go into a new year? It's nice to rethink how we build those connections in a smart way. It's been a pleasure to have you here. So good to see you as always. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah. And if the listeners are feeling called to be more a part of this connection mission we're on to flatten the loneliness epidemic curve, join the Connection Crew Masterclass. Like, come get a taste there. You'll feel amazing. And you'll also know, is this for me or not? Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review to help us reach more listeners. Have a story of your own to share or know someone who should be on the show? Visit www.joyofconnect.ing and let us know. Now go send a short message to someone you've been meaning to connect with. You never know where it might lead.